And we're back with another session of NX Office Hours, where we talk about NX, we talk about all things community in the ecosystem, and just things, uh, users of NX, features of NX, all things there. This is actually a continuation of our last Office Hour session we did, where we were building we call it building with NX, where we're building a React application with NX, and I'm joined with me again by Jack. How you doing, Jack?
And good.
Cool. So yeah, we're going to continue. Like I said, where we picked off last week. We'll do a quick walkthrough of kind of where we started from and kind of where we ended up, and then talk about kind of move forward with talking about some more NX features that we didn't get to last time, and then we'll take some questions if we have some time. So if you're in the chat, thanks for joining. If you have questions, feel free to leave them, and we'll try to get to them. So with that, I'll go ahead and share and follow all the prompts. Let's see. All right, here we are. So yeah, where we started out last time, we had a sample. We just created a workspace from scratch here that displays Star Wars characters using the Star Wars API, because that's a pretty open API that we can access. We already had a React application here, and we created a couple of libraries, one for data access, and last time we looked at using React Query to fetch the characters from the API, or fetch the people from the API. So we had one library for data access, and then one library for people, and kept things pretty flat here because it's a pretty straightforward application here. So like I mentioned, we use React Query, showed off some features of that library, of how it handles data fetching and the like. And we're going to move forward. We just use CSS modules just to kind of and showed how you split things up within a library. Jack, did you have anything else to add before we kind of move on?
No, not really. I think we got this far, and today we can continue building the app and showing off some of the features of NX that would really help you when you're doing development in React.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, that sounds good to me. Let's see. I don't think I've changed anything
Okay,
in
I
here.
think let me just test. Yep, you can see my
Yeah.
changes, so that's perfect.
Okay. Yeah, so where would you like to start or pick up where we left off last time?
Yeah, so last time, just to recap, like we created this data access library, and it's fairly simple. All it does is really just call out to the Star Wars API, right? Which is open for everyone to use. And the way that we're doing it is we're calling this get people function inside our feature component. Oh, it didn't refresh. So I'm in the people.tsx.
Okay. Yeah, I think we still having issues with the live share, but you'll
Yeah.
just have to, if you switch somewhere, just let me know. We'll get to it.
Okay, I think it might work if I close and open it again. But anyway, so
Okay.
here we are, the what we call the feature component, which is some people call it connected or smart component. It uses the React query to call the get people API, and it has this support for loading more data as they're coming in. So we can pick up from here. So you'll notice like the UI is kind of crappy, as it's not very nicely styled. So we can maybe start there by creating like a new library to encapsulate just the UI part. So no data fetching, just a pure UI part of this. So we have, if you look at the side, we have libs folder, we have data access, and we have people. And the people here is our feature module. And then within the people feature module, we also have a source lib person. And the person here is basically our UI component. So if I open up the person component, you'll see this is fairly simple. So to start out, we can create a new library, and we can call this maybe UI. And let's see if I can type it here. I know I can. So, Brendan, you'll have to type for me.
Okay.
So in the terminal, let's generate a new library. So we can do nxg lib, and we can just call it UI.
And just go with that?
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay. So this is basically our shared UI library. Imagine you have multiple features, multiple apps in here. We'll all use this library here. So I'm going to open up the UI.tsx. We try to generate some default for you, but you can feel free to just delete it. In this case, this is not super helpful, so I'm just going to clear out these files from the UI library. And instead, I'm going to start with a button. So if you see the load more button, it's not styled very well. So I'm just going to create a new one for that. So I'm going to create a new file and call it button.tsx. And I also need button.module.css. And normally you can use nxg component to do this. It's just easier if I type it out right now because I don't have access to the terminal. So I'm just gonna export function button. And we know the button has a child component. So the way that you do this in TypeScript is you can say interface button props and the children, which is usually optional. In this case, I want to make it required because the button doesn't make sense if there's no child under it. And the child is going to be the text, basically. So here I'm going to do React Node, and I need to import. Now that I'm typing all this, I think maybe running the nxg might be faster, but here we are. We're too late.
Or we can use NX console. They got to get a plug-in for that one.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I should do that for the next one. So here I have. Oh, there we go. Thank you. So I'm gonna render again our button, and this won't be styled, but I know I want to style it, so I'm gonna import this styles from my CSS module file. Styles from. Oh my god. Okay. Okay, there we go. Autocomplete now. There you go. And I'm going to use it as a class name. So this is going to return an object with different class names on it. So styles.button will be what I want. And I know there's children on the top. So props.children. There we go. What is this? Cannot find name props. Did I?
Oh yeah, I think we just gotta type.
Oh, right.
Type
Okay.
I just filling in where I can.
Okay, here we go. And I'm just gonna enter this. I'm not sure why Prettier is not running. Usually Prettier is set up by default. Let me see. Can I format?
Yeah, I may just not have it format. Well, yeah, it should format on save if you have that set up, but maybe it's going off my settings or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be. Well, maybe we won't worry about too much. Okay, it's not working. That's fine. So
don't be distracted by the formatting.
All right, so here we have our button, and here's what the class name comes in. I'm just gonna do a very simplistic thing, which is like border radius, let's say 3 pixels. Border is 1 pixel solid. I don't know, blue, and that should be that. So the first thing we can do is we can actually try it out. So let's go back to our feature component. I can import this. And this would be from, our scope is a little bit long, so I'm just going to copy it and paste it. And /UI. And if we restart the server, oh, sorry, one more thing. I forgot to export it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so if we restart the server, we should be able to use this. I can just replace it like this. and the disabled isn't on there, so I'm just gonna add it on as well. And this is optional. So okay, so that's how you would create a component. So you can see it is in there. And let's just add a little bit of background, maybe. Let's say background is just white for now. And we'll make the text the same as the border. So it's a little bit better. It's not the best UI you'll ever see, but
hey, small improvements gets better over time.
yeah, exactly. I can't tell if it's refreshed properly. Do you see that?
Yeah.
I don't see the text. Oh, you know what? I'm this color.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay, cool. Okay, border. Is there? Okay, so let's go with that for now, and maybe add a little bit of margin to it. We're not going to worry too much about it, so I'll just say it's I don't know, 10 pixels or something. 0 pixels. Okay, so we have something like there, and maybe we can show up the console. So let's say we do want to add a header to our app, to our feature, and we want like a header component. So let me see. If I go to...
You just want to create one inside of the UI library?
Yeah, exactly. So if we go to the generate inside the NX console extension, we should be able to find the second one, the React. Oh, sorry, the third one, the React component, and the name we can call it header, and the project will be UI.
Okay, it's not showing my project here.
Maybe we can just type it in manually.
Okay. It let me choose. It only gave me choices for there. Let's see.
Okay.
Let's see, it should be up to date here. Let me try it one more time. And if that...
Yeah, I know there's a new release for the extension, so I'm not sure if this is up to date.
Okay. Let's see. Header. I guess it'll let me type it in there. Oh, data access. People. Yeah, it'll let me select the ones that are there. So let's see. I'll take what the dry run gives me here, and then we can work with that, I believe.
Okay, we'll make a note of this. This should be picking up the new library, but maybe something's cached, which is
maybe so.
Which is why.
So we just have generate component and project equals UI. That's all we need.
Yeah, but let's also use the export, so -- export, which will add it automatically to the index.ts file. So if we run that, we should get a new component there. Header. So we do see it. And you'll notice it's nested within the header folder, which we mentioned last time. By default, it is nested. So I'm going to move the button to its own folder too, just for consistency. It's just a little bit easier to organize your files this way, I think. So
we could have.
You could
if we could have made both of them flat there.
Exactly. So I'm going to open the header and show you what it looks like. So it basically generates mostly what you need. You may not need a prop, so you can delete it and stuff. But in this case, we actually do need the props again, and we need something similar to the button component, which is we have a children prop here. And I'm going to change the import React from React to start as React, which is a new syntax. The other one still works, but this is what it's going to be moving forward. So instead of returning welcome to header, I'm just going to render the props.children. And more importantly, if you look at the header.spec.tsx, we have by default some tests in here, and you should always update this test. I think some people generate it and they keep this default use case or test case. It's not what we intended for it. So I should update the description for this. So we should say like it should render text, for example. And of course, this doesn't pass type checking because we added the children prop. So I'm going to add that in here and say hello, right? Oops. There we go. And one thing we do want to see is that the hello is printed on the screen. So from this testing library, I'm also going to import screen. And I want to select it. So expect screen dot find by text hello to be truthy.
Yeah, no, one thing I guess just want to add here, and maybe this is, like I said, pretty new to me. So the testing library React, that's been in there for a while, right? Just support for using that within React, our React generators.
Yeah, so we've added it maybe a year ago.
Okay.
Or maybe more, actually. I can't remember exactly, but basically, if you're testing a React application, you have a few choices. You have the plain like React's testing support, which is pretty low level, or you can use testing library, which is a little bit newer. I think most people use it. There's also something from Airbnb called Enzyme, which I don't recommend, but some of the older projects use something like that. And the reason you want to use one of these testing library is because the default way to test is a little bit verbose, and if you don't know what you're doing, like you could run into problems. Whereas something like testing library just wraps a lot of or encapsulates a lot of the complexities, so you don't have to worry about it. So in this case, like the screen.find by text is basically looking at what's rendered in the DOM, and that's going to JS DOM. Normally, you'll have to do something like maybe like document dot query.
Yeah, you have to
query all or something, right?
Okay,
It's
yeah.
very verbose. And there's also stuff like wait for, so you can import wait for. So you can wait for something to be present on the screen before you proceed. So that's also pretty useful. In this case, we don't really need it. So if we run nx, oh wait, I can't. So if you run nx test UI and then watch, we should be able to see this test running.
So you got one test pass. Yep, pass.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all working, and we can see like if I change this to something else, it should fail. And so, oh, or maybe not. let me see. So the other thing you can do is screen.debug.
Okay.
Just to see what the output of the HTML is.
Let me make sure. Let me slide this up some. Still rendering. Hello.
Okay, so it's actually rendering the right thing. Let me see what this is. Maybe it's not actually returning null like normal query selectors. So let me see what this is. Okay, let's scroll up a bit. I don't see anything.
You don't see anything there? Screen.debug. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see the find by text logout though. Let me try this. It'll be easier to find. Oh, right. Okay. So, okay. So because it's async, I forgot. Let's do an async array. So you can always check, right? Like this find by text should be not expect that, but oh. Okay, so we can do it two ways. So one is get the actual result back. So await screen by find by text, and then we can do expect result to be true. See, and then
I think I got
I messed up something. There we go.
let's see. Wait.
Oh, I put the async on the wrong one. Sorry.
Yeah.
There we go.
There you go.
Okay.
Await
What's that
is
say?
only allowed within. It says await is only allowed within async functions, but we have that
Oh,
defined.
maybe it's cached. Maybe Jess is running the wrong one. So what does it say now?
It says you seem to have overlapping act calls. Is it because we got two screen find by text here, or?
Oh, it could be, yeah. Let me get rid of that.
Yeah, I think it says unable to find element with that text. So it looks like
Okay,
it's
so if I
acting correctly
fix
now.
it, then it should pass. Okay, cool.
Yep.
So we get rid of the debug. Don't need that anymore. But that's actually a very useful tool. If you're just not sure what's going on, you can always log out the HTML. Okay, so now we have our header button. I'm going to use a header, so maybe we can create something in the main application. So if we go back to apps, SW app, and then our app TSX, like right now we're just rendering people, right? So we can actually import the header, and I would say like, I don't know, oops, welcome, or let's say Star Wars app. And then again, our people feature down here, and we will need to import the header. So once we do update this, we can also take a look at what the graph looks like at this point.
Yep. Okay. So we're back. Yeah, I think we're back to where we were, at least there.
And just to make the whole thing a little bit nicer, I'm gonna go to the app.module.css, and instead of the font family like being like this, I'm gonna change this .app to body. So it should affect everything, or not. What's going on?
Let's see. Already importing. Oh yeah, it's imported there.
Oh, I haven't used CSS module in a while. I think you need a global scope.
Okay.
Or
Let's make sure everything's still building correctly. I think we're good there. You want to restart the
sure.
watch?
Let's restart it and see. I mean, none of this is like super important, but I'm just curious why it's not working.
Yeah, it seemed to reload that time.
Huh. Okay, I'm gonna just, I guess, cheat it a little bit. So I'll put the app back because I don't want to try and figure out what's going on. I'll just do class name equals styles.app. It could be something with CSS modules that's preventing this. Okay, so we have our non like sans serif font basically. So if you pull up the depth graph real quick, we can see what it looks like now. Because I think we did show it last time too.
Yeah, we did.
Small.
I'm gonna run out of terminals here in a second. Let's see. That one is 4211.
Okay, if we just do a select all, since we have a small app.
Yeah, let's click on that one.
Yeah, so you'll see we added the UI, and it is correctly showing that the app itself uses UI, so there's a people, and then the app uses a data access. And actually, I'm not sure if that's correct. Maybe we shouldn't be.
You're saying that?
Oh, we're importing it. That's why. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, I'll delete it. I'll delete the code, but let's ignore that edge for now, because that's not really correct. The reason why it appeared is basically inside the app I had put in the import statement, and NX is reading that import and making that connection, even though we're not technically using it. NX can't really tell, so it just saw your import statement within your TypeScript file and then said, yeah, there's an edge there. So I deleted it, so it's no longer there.
Let's see if we can. Since you deleted it, we should be. able to see with something. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. So the interesting thing here is if you go check off the E2E again, and we can go more into the E2E stuff after this too. You see there's an implicit text on that edge.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that is inside the E2E, which is in Cypress suite, we don't actually import anything from the app, right? So the way that it actually works within NX is by default, we detect that anything ending with E2E is implicitly dependent on the app itself. The other way you can do it is within here, you can explicitly say this SW app E2E is implicitly dependent on the SW app. I think if you remove it, it should still work, but I could be wrong. Because in the old NX version, we didn't require this, which was a little bit confusing for folks because they're not sure where that dependency came from. So since like a while back, we added this part just so folks can see what's going on. And while we're in here, this is not really relevant for this particular app, but for anyone who's looking at this NX.json, there are a few interesting things in here. So implicit dependencies at the top. You'll notice like some of them are using nested values. So like package.json, for example, has like dependencies and depth dependencies pointing to star. And what the star means is it's going to affect every single app or every single project in the workspace. So what this entry tells you is that anytime workspace.json is modified, then every single project in the workspace is also modified or affected. And you can deeply go into JSON files by using JSON objects like this, because like if there's something changed in the package JSON, but it's not dependencies or depth dependencies, you probably don't care. But if your workspace is different and you know better, then you can always change this yourself. If you don't care about something, like maybe you don't use tslint, so you can delete it, for example. So that's how you would customize this part. And I forget to ask, did we make a commit before we started going with the new features?
Yeah. I committed the changes that we had from last week, so we're at a good stopping point.
Okay, cool. So let's run the depth graph again, but this time let's use NX affected depth graph. And it'll be a little bit different than what we see currently.
Okay, let's refresh this one.
So here you'll see, it's not that much different, but you'll see everything's in red.
We changed everything again.
Yeah, so the reason why everything's in red right now is because we generated a UI project, which means the NX JSON is modified, right? So therefore, it's saying every single project in the workspace is affected. So if we make a commit here, Brendan, and we'll just make another change, and we'll rerun the affected to see what the difference is.
Okay. So we're just going to commit everything we have now?
Exactly.
Because I should type these out instead of using aliases so people can follow when they go back through it. Added header. It's just going to be correct here. Okay. So now if we run affected, I believe it'll be empty. Yeah, let me see which one. There. If we run affected again. Yeah, so there's nothing. So you have to manually check off the apps and stuff, right? So now I've got to make one change. So let's say our header needs to be more bold, for example. So I'm going to open up the module.css. I'm going to say like .header, and the font weight has to be, or maybe I want to make it less bold. So let's make it 100. And then the font size will be 24 pixels. And I will need to use that within my component. So class name equals, oh my God. Okay, class name. It's just gonna be like Jack making typos all day. So, there we go. That's how it goes when you're on stream. It's like I could do this in my sleep, and then you turn on the stream, and it's like the fingers stop working. Yep. So I made this small change to UI library. So if we rerun the affected depth graph again,
It'll show something more interesting.
Okay. So UI library.
Oh no, I made it at the leaf.
I'll do
Actually,
what?
so I'm not sure why the data access is being affected.
Oh,
Oh,
cause go
okay,
ahead.
okay, I get it. Because there's an edge going from data access to people, which I think we also did as an example last time. So
Mm-hmm.
um, let's see, where is that coming from? Okay, because we have the person interface inside the person component, that's why there's an edge there. So this is actually not really good because there's a circular dependency. So the way that we
Right.
want to solve this is usually by specifying a model library, like a shared model library, to make sure the data access and the other libraries can also have access to. But for the point of this current demonstration, I'm just gonna remove that edge manually, and I'm just gonna say person as any for now. You should not actually do this in real app, but for the sake of time,
Yeah.
if you rerun it again, I believe that edge is now gone.
Okay, let's run it again. We're still seeing that edge. Is it? Let's see. Are we importing it anywhere else in here? Maybe.
Oh, it
Oops.
could be. Let's see.
So it's person. I think that was the only.
Oh,
part.
I do see it. The get people is also from data access. Oh, no. I'm wrong. I did the wrong thing.
Okay.
The edge we want to remove is actually not the feature to data access. That's actually fine. So I'm going to undo that change. We want to remove the data access to the feature module.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that's why. Okay, so why is this importing from?
Is it this one?
Oh yeah, yeah. There we go.
This console log we got in there.
Yeah, I forget why we added that, but anyway, that's not really good code.
Yeah,
So here
there
we
we
go.
go. That looks
So now it's
better.
gone. But because we did affect the data access library as part of the current change, it's also there. So maybe we can just commit the data access library by itself, and then we can take a look at what's going on.
Okay, let's see. Which one do I have open here? So just the data access change. Git add libs data. Commit your remove circular dependency. I'm going to come back to the affected graph. And that's a good thing about the graph is that it always gives you what's current, like what the current state of your dependencies are.
Exactly.
It's close to having to update all this manually. So
yeah, I can imagine like if you weren't using NX, this will be someone manually going to like a graphing software and like manually updating it every time it's changed. So maybe every month or something, they have to go and refresh it. But with NX, like you said, it's just automatic. You'll notice the data access is out of focus now because it hasn't been affected. But you can always do the target next to the SW app again. And that target would zoom in to only that app and any edges coming in and out of it. So in this case, the data access is back, but you see it's like the actual node itself is black, not red, meaning that it's not part of the current affected changes. So, sorry, you were going to say something?
yeah, I was gonna say it also made it. It was good that we ran into this like circular dependency, in this example because it shows how you can kind of trace back to where it came from. Because if you didn't have like NX to show you that, or like to show those edge or show those dependencies for you, it'd be a lot more be more difficult to trace down.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess to add on top of that, it's not just the security dependency when you're one library deep, right? Because in this example, we had people in data access library depending on each other. But if you had a longer chain, we can also detect that. And maybe this is another session, but Yuri has been working on like cool things you can do with our project graph. So what you see in the UI here is just how we represent it when you run the depth graph command.
Right.
But you can actually get the graph itself by importing the create project graph function from NX itself. So NX workspace has this function. And that'll give you a JSON object, which is a data representation of what you see here. And also includes stuff like NPM packages, which we filter out here because it's way too noisy. But you can do stuff like, if you want to see exactly where the security dependencies are coming from, or what the bad dependency chains are coming from, you can walk the graph yourself manually and figure that stuff out. But that's not really in scope today, unfortunately.
Yeah, if you like I said, if you had some third party package also, and you wanted to see everywhere that was being used, you could, like I said, drill into the graph a little further.
Yeah. So
to see.
Like when I mentioned Enzyme as a testing library earlier and how you shouldn't be using it, like if you want to know exactly who's using it, you could use our project graph to figure it out. I mean, I guess you can also do it manually by doing a search and whatever in your IDE, but there's a lot more power this way. So like exactly if I need to look for certain dependency and how they interact with each other, you can do that with the graph. Okay, so continue on. Oh man, it's 20 minutes left.
It's how it creeps up on us every time.
I know.
It's like we're just going to change a couple of things in like 30, 35 minutes in already.
So I guess the couple of things I want to get through before we end. One is I want to touch on the Cypress stuff. But before that, like, I guess the question would be, what are the use cases for dependency graph and the affected logic, right? So maybe we can touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, so this is going to be more of a talking. I'm not going to show too much. Okay. Actually, let's just do it. So I open up one of the markdown files, which you don't see. So let's open up the README file at the root. I'm just going to start typing some stuff in here.
Okay.
So usually for CI, like if you're using Lerna, for example, they have ways you can figure out like what's been affected, which projects are affected. So you can do like Lerna. I actually forget. I think it's like run change or something. I can't remember. This is probably wrong. But what that will do is it's actually going to look for all the packages that are affected or touched in the current change set, which is different from what NX does. So NX has something similar. So you can do like run many, or you can do affected. So affected test is basically the same as run many test, but it's not going to run everything. It's going to run only what's affected or like changed in the current PR. But unlike Lerna, it would also understand the project graph. So if I touch a UI library, for example, it would be forced to retest the people library as well because we saw that edge being connected there. If you use Lerna, it would not make that connection, and you will only test the UI library, which for the most part is actually wrong because if you test only a UI library, you're not guaranteed that anything that's using it is not broken now, right? So this is what you want to do. If you use NX, is you want to do affected test, and you can optionally pass in like a base. By default, it's main. You can always change the default by adding it to the NX JSON. Let's say you're not using the main branch, you can set it to whatever. Like some people use develop, for example, right? That's their base branch. And then the target is usually this head, which is your current head for it. But you can change it to whatever. It's like if you're within the CI system, maybe you have like
you maybe change it to Circle CI, whatever their particular environment variable is.
Yeah, so that's how you would do it if you use NX. The run many is kind of similar, and this we'll talk about another cool feature at NX. So this is probably my recommended way to do your CI. But you can also do run many and target test, and the projects are just say all, right? And what this will do is it's not going to use the affected logic at all. it's just going to try and run tests for everything in the workspace, but it's still going to be fast. And the reason why it's going to be fast on average is this is going to use the NX cache. So if I open up the NX JSON again, here we go. You see this task runner options, and there's a cacheable operations array. So test is within this. So this is a default generated. You can add more stuff in here if you need to. But you see test is in here. What that's going to do is if you run the test once, it's going to cache that result. And the way that it caches is it's going to go through your files for all your projects and stuff, and then create like a hash for like the contents of those files. So if you do change something, it's going to invalidate the cache and it'll be forced to rerun. So here, I don't believe this is cached. No. So if you run it again, you'll see this is a little bit faster.
Right.
And
we see that retrieve from cache there.
Yeah. So if you copy the test, the run many command from the README that I typed, it should do the same. So for that UI project, it should be reading from the cache as well.
Yeah, let's see. Where did I put NX run mini?
Oh, sorry, not projects all. Dash all.
Oh, right.
Yeah. There we go.
Okay, now it's my turn to not type things.
So you see the first one came back really quickly. And ignoring the failures, so the first project, which is a UI one, is still reading from cache, right?
Yeah, if you can.
Oh, we missed.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Yep, still retrieve from cache for that first one, even though the rest of them
exactly
blew out the rest of the.
Here, if I go to the header again, I'm just going to add a comment because we don't differentiate between like a code change or a comment change. So I added a foo comment here. So if you rerun the UI test again, you'll see like it's actually not pulling from cache anymore. Yeah, so it's actually running it for real this time because the content has changed. But the cool thing is like if I change this back, so if I undo the change I just made, save, now it's gonna use a cache again.
Right. Yep.
So the cache is not just what you previously read; is any iteration of your content is cached, and it's powerful if you also like wire this up with NX Cloud. Which I'll just plug, I guess, kind of quickly. So NS Cloud is a distributed cache system, but also has other things like gives you detailed views of your runs. Like if you run tests inside the CI, we capture it inside our NS Cloud UI and show like what commands were run and stuff like that. But the distributed cache part of it is if Brandon runs his test on his machine and he has NS Cloud enabled, when I pull the same change, the same branch, and I run the test again, it's actually going to use Brandon's results. So I don't have to do it again. So going all the way back to CI, you have two choices. You can either use the affected test, which is, I think, the simpler way to do it, or you can just use a run many. And the target could be test, could be build or lint or whatever you want. And the average time should still be fast just because we're using the cache feature of NX. So those are the two ways you can approach your CI system.
Yeah, definitely. I use the cache heavily, whenever, especially on like the NX repo itself.
Yeah.
Just when we had to make changes there, and those we run like everything. We run the end-to-end tests, but we also don't run the ones that take the longest for just like a individual package change that doesn't affect everything else. So definitely a lot of time savings there. And the NX Cloud app also lets you not have to dig through CI logs. I mean, I've had my share of digging through Jenkins or into your CI system here that has console logs in it. To try to get some meaningful information out of it, and it's definitely a lot nicer there.
Yeah, for sure. And like actually, since you mentioned we use it for NX itself, since we enabled it, which is last year, it saves us a lot of time. So like locally, whenever we make a change and we want to do E2E test, we usually have to rebuild a bunch of things that maybe we don't need to. So now, like if I'm just making a small change to like say the Next.js package, I only need to rebuild that one, right? So that the build is a lot faster. That means I can get my results a lot quicker. Just tightens the iteration loop, right? So we're not wasting so much time just like waiting for builds and stuff to finish.
You got less time to go check on Twitter and
Right.
go make coffee or something.
I mean, some people might complain about that. It's funny because I was talking to John the other day. So he made some changes to the NS console extension for VS Code, and he speed up the load time for some of the bigger repos to go from like 10 minutes to only 2 seconds. And someone actually complained to him like, hey, now I don't have time to take a coffee break. So,
right.
Sometimes being fast is not the best.
Yeah, depends on who the recipient of that speed change is.
Exactly. So the last thing about the cache is like if I say make some changes to my feature branch and I need some help with it, I ping Brandon on Slack. Hey, Brandon, I have this PR and I can't figure out what's going on. He posts it. He tries to run the build, or not tries. He runs a build. He doesn't actually need to do the build, right? Because I already done it locally. So when he tries to help me debug, it also saves him time. So it's not just for one developer, right? It's like across the board.
Yep, definitely. I think you're on. I think you're on mute.
There we go. I don't know how that happened. Must have pressed something. Like we're coming very close to time, but we're not gonna finish this. But maybe we can run the E2E test just to show what's going on there. So whenever you generate a new application in NX, you always get the Cypress suite. So if we do like E2E and then SW app -E2E, that's going to start the actual server for the React app. And in this case, it's being too smart. It's already started.
Yeah. I already had had it running somewhere else. So let's see. It still brought up Cypress though, so there's that. Okay, so we had a failed test there.
Yeah, so the reason why it fails is like the Cypress SSL, again, is using a stub test, so it's checking for content that we've since changed. So we just need to fix that and it should be good to go. So I'm going to open the app.spec.ts within the E2E folder.
Integration app.spec.ts. Here we go.
Yep, and we know the header is actually not welcome to Star Wars app or SW app. It's actually going to be this thing that we changed it to. We don't need to log in here, so I'm just going to remove it. Like anytime you see some stub code and you don't need it, just delete it. Don't leave it around.
Yeah, but it also means you should be writing some tests. So
yeah, exactly.
You got some stub code in there.
Yeah. So if we run the E2E test again, that should pass.
Stubby app.E2E. I think I stopped it correctly this time, so it should at least get past that or not have that issue up there.
Yeah, so this should pop up.
Yeah, you probably won't see it because.
Yep, there we go. We
okay, yeah. I see the Cypress window pop up on my screen, but the test did pass that time.
Right. So if you're doing development too, you can just attach the watch option, which will keep the Cypress Electron app alive, so it doesn't just run once and then stops. So as you're coding your app, also rerun all the tests and stuff as you're going. So some people like that feature, I think.
Right, and I think another thing to add to that is another command that can be used as a target with the affected command. So if this was instead of tests, you can run affected E2E, and it will run all your Cypress tests that were affected by a given change also. So all those targets or projects that you have there, you can run those commands against those too.
Right. And just like the previous test command, the E2E command is also cached. So if you hadn't made any changes to your test suite or your application, then you shouldn't see any runs. So it should just read from cache, basically. So that's as far as we can get today, I think. But Brandon, do you have anything to add? Anything you want to
No, I didn't have any.
discuss?
Didn't have anything else to add there. I think that's a good stopping point right there. We did have one question, and it's sort of it's a mixed. The question is there any example like the Angular 12 heroes to follow using React in NX? And there isn't one that I know of specifically, but maybe it'll be something we could look at doing or putting together for maybe a future, maybe as just like an example or something like that. Because I know that I'm pretty sure there have been other examples built using, of course, NX and Angular that
Yeah.
have done Tour of Heroes. So
I'm not familiar with the Tour of Heroes thing, but I think anytime people are asking for examples, we should have them available. We do have one called NX examples, which is under the Nrwl GitHub repo, which is basically incorporating an NX workspace with Angular and React. So that's something to check out. And that's also the repo we use to test out our migrations and everything else when we're migrating from one NX version to the next. So I would check that out first. It's pretty small, so it's a little bit contrived. It's not like what you would call a real world example.
yeah, I added the link to that repo here in the chat and just showing it up on the screen here. Yeah, we do have some ideas about how to make that app less contrived also to add more features and more integrations there. So definitely check that out and be looking for more things there to come in the future. Yeah, so on that, I think that's a good place to stop. I got to get some of these other plugs in here. NX DevTools on Twitter. Definitely follow us there. NX.dev for documentation and getting help with other areas of NX because we support Angular, primarily Angular, React, and Node. So we have dedicated sections for those and also have sections for plugins. So if you want to build your own plugin for NX to use within another ecosystem like Svelte or Vue or other frameworks that support for you to build those things is there also. Another one to add is if you already have, even if you have an existing Create React app that's set up already and you want to look at migrating to NX, you can do that with one command, just using npx CRA to NX. I'll throw Jack's Twitter up here. You can follow him on Twitter to get some more React knowledge there, React and NX, React and NX information there. I didn't throw mine up here, but mine is Brandon T. Roberts on Twitter also. Well, you can see him on the screen there.
Yeah.
So there's that. But yeah, thanks again, Jack, for continuing this episode of Building with NX, creating an application in React. And we look forward to having more of these in the future where we can kind of show the power of NX like in actual use cases that people will run into that'll help them going forward.
Yeah, it's been fun. My pleasure to be here.
All right. With that, we'll see y'all next time. See ya.